We made this.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of CHUCKYVISION, or I should say, a podcast dealing with all things Child's Play and Chucky. We've gone through all 7 movies, and now we're in the thick of it with the new TV show, Chucky. 4 episodes in of 8, so we're at the halfway mark, and boy oh boy, this is the halfway mark. Things are really kicking off. I can't wait to get into it with my co-host, as always. It's Mark Adams. How are you?
Hello, I'm alright. You didn't introduce yourself, though. You're Dev Elson.
Yes, I am. I'm not excited to get into it.
But it does feel, you're right, that this halfway point has just come so quickly. And I don't feel like there's enough story yet. And I'm like, well, we have to have a second series because I already want more. And 4 more episodes isn't enough.
Yeah, forget everything I said last week, which was about pacing and TV stories and stuff. Suddenly, we're right back into that. Oh my god, this feels like a movie again. This is just racing along.
So why have Americans changed the way they do their telly? Because, like, when I used to watch Buffy, even its pilot first series had 12 episodes, and then it had 22 episodes a season. This is basically like a British sitcom with only 8 episodes. How very dare they?
I mean, God, I would love that, but how would you do the American, 22 episodes of Chucky?
I completely trust Don Mancini to find a way and make it fucking magnificent if the first 4 episodes are anything to go by.
It would just be like Supernatural, how the fucking drama between Lexi and Jake and Devon and stuff, it would have a big argument, and then 2 episodes later they just make up and it just go back to the status quo. And then another 4 episodes later they'd have another argument, and then it'd just go back to the status quo.
Supernatural really is crap. I don't get why people like that.
I
don't have enough life left to watch that shit.
I did watch most of it. Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's a tricky thing with long TV shows, because as you say, these 22 episodes or 12 episodes and stuff, like Buffy season 1, it's great, but I mean, I feel like some people would say you can skip quite a bit. Star Trek The Next Generation is the best of Star Trek, but then everyone says you can just skip season 1 and even most of season 2.
Oh, season 1, I'm actually quite.
I like season 1. I think season 1 does actually start very strong, but it is the same thing of there's a weird need that I don't know who says it, the studio, the producers, but it gets to the writers' room and they're like, you need to do 20 episodes, so have fun with that.
I just want more, and it doesn't feel fair that we're at the halfway point is basically the gist of this conversation.
I am going to absolutely dread when season 1 is done, and I'm like, oh, fuck me, when is season 2 coming? It's going to be a while.
Well, it hasn't been confirmed we're getting season 2, I've not seen that anywhere, at least.
I think it's doing well, isn't it? It must be.
It is, but it still hasn't been commissioned for a second season. And I will be mortified if it doesn't get one, because I wonder whether it really will be the death of the Chucky franchise, the final death. We thought Seed was the death. It wasn't. We probably thought Child's Play 3 was the death. It wasn't. And I don't feel like Cult of Chucky, despite its reviews, did well. So that might have been the death. It's died 100 fucking deaths, like Chucky has himself. But I do wonder whether a TV series that doesn't get a second season really could be the death of the Chucky franchise.
I would say whether he's planning to or whether he'll reluctantly do it. I think this could go the way of Star Trek in that if they don't get the green light for season 2, Don Mancini is just going to do another movie.
I mean, that would hopefully be a thing, but It's whether... Oh, I don't know. I like you say, I think that the TV series is doing well. I just want them to confirm Series 2.
I'm sure they
Damn
will
it.
once we get to the last couple episodes. I'm sure they'll announce it soon.
I tell you what I did this week that is Chucky related. Because obviously I'm obsessing about Chucky at the moment. I started to see if I could source the very limited number of Chucky comics. In total, there's only about 14 or 16 Chucky comics that have ever, at least official Chucky comics, that have ever been released. And they are fucking expensive on British eBay. It doesn't seem like any British people own them, so you have to import them from America. And I know long term we're looking at doing like anything to do with Chucky on a monthly basis for this podcast once the TV series is finished. But the comics are really expensive. And I wonder whether they were before the Chucky series was released. And maybe I should have had a bit of hindsight and bought them 6 months ago.
I imagine they probably would have been a fair penny beforehand, because it does seem like, even as successful as Child's Play 1 and even 2 were, to make a comic of a horror movie in that time, I assume the studio was just like, fuck it, why not? But like, I can't imagine they were printing it out by like the millions. So I think it was a rare commodity even back in the day.
And I've got some other news for you as well, Dev.
Mm-hmm.
You know how we were delighted that we hit 1,000 downloads?
Oh yes, it's been going very well since then.
2 weeks later, we've hit 2,000 downloads. And I'm like, what the actual fuck? We're a hit. And I don't really know what to do about that other than basically carry on with the same inane chat. But I'm like, shit, do we have a responsibility to be good now?
It's delightful. I mean,
we're getting days where we're getting more than 100 downloads a day. And I'm like, really? That many people want to listen to us on a daily basis?
That is wonderful. And we have had a few comments. I've noticed we've started getting comments and stuff over on the Twitter. What's the official handle at that? So I can plug it now?
At CHUCKYVISION.
At CHUCKYVISION, yes. Please, for the people listening, sound off. Speak up. Like I say, this... even when we started this, expecting, I don't know what we expected, but we just put it out for the sake of it.
We put it out because we like Chucky. It really
we did.
wasn't any more complex than that.
We're two guys just enjoying talking about Chucky, and obviously there are people out there that are enjoying this, so join in the conversation. You might give us a really good conversation point to put in the next episode, so please sound off.
Definitely. And so putting it into perspective, we got more listens in one day last week. Well, we got twice as many listens in one day last week as we have followers on Twitter. So fucking follow us on Twitter if you're listening, please. So yeah, it is overwhelming, I'll be honest with you. I really thought we might just have a massive flop, but I'd enjoy it anyway. I've done podcasting like that in the past. But it's just nice to know that people seem to be enjoying what we're doing. We also put out on Twitter, kind of like an outreach thing. There are now 4 Chucky podcasts. There's obviously kids stuff, which we are happy to be chatting with and potentially working with in future. But there are 2 others which I haven't listened to yet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to listen to them and I'll probably plug them next week.
Like Tiffany says, the cult is growing.
The cult is growing.
I'm surprised there aren't more. I'm sure there must be other just coverage websites like IGN or whatever or Total Film that are just putting out like a special thing. Like just a special, like as part of their own programming. I'm surprised there's not more of that.
I'm happy to just tell you their names, but I can't recommend them because I haven't listened to them yet. There's Talking Chucky, which is so far has got 2 episodes. And the newest one is Friends Till the End, which was launched yesterday, and they've only done an intro. And by yesterday, what I mean is yesterday on day of recording. So last Wednesday, by the time you listen to this. I'm an idiot.
Hey, it's never too late to start this. We got in on early.
But I've not listened to either of those 2 yet. I am planning on doing it over the next week, and I'll let you know. over the next week, and also probably going to reach out to them as well if they follow us back on Twitter. No one follows us back on fucking Twitter.
Like I say, like we started this podcast. Podcasting is just people having a conversation that they think is worthwhile. So, it's never too late for other people to be starting their podcasts. And especially since, if you want to get into it, I mean, this episode of Chucky,
Let's do it. We've talked too much random shit. Let's do it.
There is stuff to talk about with this episode. It gets going. What I said, it was the last episode, wasn't it? How in episode 2 we have that fun cliffhanger of Jake deciding to become a killer, and then episode 3 slowed things down just a little bit, just to really explore that. And then episode 3 we get this big cinematic climax of Chucky burning the house down and laughing in glee. We do the same thing where Mancini really takes the time to explore the consequences. This is something I think I said on Twitter, which, unlike the movies in which they, build up to this huge finale when everything goes crazy, and then there's you get a very brief moment of what's the fancy word? Denouement? Denouement. And it's usually
it's posh if it's French.
And you usually don't get any clarification until, say, Child's Play 2, when it's just a throwaway dialogue of Karen went to a mental asylum, and that's it. That's your consequences. That's your continuation. And what's so interesting in a TV format is that we get to really see the direct consequences of the violence and the chaos that Chucky causes. And it's like some of the other stuff, like the dialogue of Jake considering being a killer. You get the really fun moments, and then you get these really sobering moments as well, when Jake goes to the hospital and sees all the collateral damage that Chucky has caused. Because it seemed in his head so simple, and he talks about it later, that he just wanted Chucky to kill Lexi, and that was it. And that's that's a big decision for someone his age to be making. But then he really sees here that, I mean, someone else, Oliver, got murdered. Lexi didn't even get killed. His crush, his blossoming love, Devon, got slightly injured. Junior got injured. Little Caroline got injured. She's in critical condition. I mean, it just went terribly wrong in all ways for Jake.
Yeah, and I think the way the TV series explores it is very different to how a film would have explored it. They just wouldn't have had the time. And the first section of the show, it really is brilliant at showing you the consequences of not stopping something that you could have predicted. And I really like the moral kind of dilemma that it presents you with, at what point are you responsible for someone else's actions that you maybe could, and if you did, should have prevented or predicted? And Jake isn't a nice guy when you actually think about it.
That is the crux of the drama, of the human drama in this episode, is we finally get that confrontation between Jake and Lexi. And it's, as delectable as the drama is, it is also, to use that word again, it's sobering. It's kind of, it's sad, because neither of them are fully in the right. They have rightfully their own reasons, but they've both made really bad decisions.
And that's the thing. She is still a 100% pure cunt. But she's not wrong about Jake with the things that she says about him. She's absolutely right. Regardless of what she has done to him, she doesn't acknowledge what she's done to him, but regardless of what she has done to him, the fact that he went as far as considering killing her makes him a horrible, horrible person. And his revenge on her wasn't nice. The whole moral dilemma thing I really, really like in this. And again, that wouldn't have been explored in a 90-minute film. A 90-minute film would have finished by now.
Yeah, precisely. This is, briefly, without going into it, relating it to another film, it's like Halloween Kills. That is, so much of that film is the denouement of Halloween 2018. It's the continuation of that story, and it's really refreshing to see those consequences and those continuations of events. So, like, on a weekly basis here, because as you say, we don't rarely ever get that in a slasher film, and
Yeah.
it is interesting because I think I look at the Twitter and the Instagram of like Chucky and stuff, the TV show, and it's so funny in the comments and stuff. Like everyone is like, "Why is that bitch Lexi still alive? Why the fuck didn't you kill her?" It's interesting because it sets us up as Jake as the protagonist, and so we're meant to relate to him. And they introduce Lexi as is antagonist the right word? She's not nice to our protagonist, so therefore she is bad. The show confronts us by saying that, by really showing that our protagonist is flawed and that a lot of these kids are quite flawed. And it's an interesting watch because you don't really get this in slasher films, do you?
Yeah.
It's not like Laurie and Michael Myers. It's not like the young naive teenager who's just a beacon of goodness. It's complicated. It's way more complicated than that.
Yeah. And I think it's a credit to the franchise, the writer, and that they've managed to convert it to TV so well.
Again, that's such a credit to, I think, a credit to Don Mancini, because and we've seen this with other elements of a story and thematic elements. Like, I think Don Mancini is very aware of what we're talking about in terms of like the format. He's always wanted to explore ideas and concepts, but he knows that he's constricted to this format. And at the same time, he knows, like, once he makes this movie, it could be years until he gets to make another movie.
Yeah.
So this is like a real good opportunity for him to explore every idea that he's wanted to.
Yeah, I think that's true. Well, should we talk about the credits? Because I'm more and more obsessed with how fucking great they are.
Yes, the opening titles are really, really good.
He's in a hospital, so the word Chucky is formed out of needles and scalpels. And in my notes as I was watching, I put, is it about the hospital motif, or is it a portent? And of course, it was a fucking portent.
Well, Chucky does say himself that he fucking loves hospitals, doesn't he?
He does, and he enjoys using hospital implements to do a murder.
Oh, we will get to that kill.
So now I'm thinking, every time I watch the credits, I'm going to be looking for portents. And I bet there isn't another one for the rest of the series. I like being fucked with when I'm watching horror, I do. Stuff like this, if you overanalyze it, the only person that's fucking with you is actually yourself.
Getting fucked with is a major part of the Chucky franchise.
Definitely.
They go into that with the conflict between Lexi and Jake. They pretty explicitly talk about the fact that, like, Lexi is, quite rightfully, like, you just try to fucking murder me indirectly. Like, I've got to tell people that you want to murder me. And then Jake brings up the age-old franchise rule that no one's going to believe you that a killer doll did all this.
Even within the first quarter of an hour, Lexi, I don't feel like it's a redemption, but I feel like it's more of a explains via empathy to the audience her situation. And I like that nothing's black or white, because it very much lowers your opinion of Jake as it happens. She gets a taste of her own medicine and an insight into Jake's horror in that bollocking she gets from her parents, which I really like. Again, she doesn't really do anything about it, but I feel like the acting, you see that she does realise what she's done, which is, again, going back to the acting of the actor who plays Jake in the last episode, that scene could have been shit with a shit actor.
Yeah.
And Lexi actually becomes an ally to Jake, and she's a lot more fucking practical than Jake is. Jake would have really struggled without her. It's really well done that she isn't redeemed, but there is at least some empathy, understanding, and a believable alliance within a very short period of time, really.
That is definitely, again, that element of frustration in terms of the conflict and the drama. The good frustration from conflict and drama is that, I mean, I throw wild predictions every episode, but I said this bitch is gonna probably make it to the finale. She
I also
Don
said that
Mancini
it
is
would be
not Don Mancini is not gonna kill this person off because she's too good at being annoying.
Talking about predictions, I also said that it's going to be Chucky versus Jake, and I was right.
Yeah, that really kicked off.
I'd like to point out that, yes, the first 4 episodes were released to reviewers. We were not given those episodes. We're not big enough. Maybe we will be by series 2. I mean, if you know, people do want to send us screeners, we would very happily receive them. But we didn't receive those first 4 episodes that were used for the reviewers on stuff like Rotten Tomatoes. So our predictions were legit. And I think we both did pretty fucking good, actually, Dev.
Like I said, I was basing it on a previous show he worked on, Hannibal. And there's a character in that of Dr. Chilton. And he is just, he's just your basic bitch. He is just, he is a real asshole. And like Hannibal, like almost, they made that a running joke that once every season, Dr. Chilton would just get horribly mutilated. And it would be left up to the audience if he was dead or not. And then the next season, he would just be like in hospital, completely like mutilated. And the other characters would drag him in, like, we need your help with this, and capturing.
What, did the audience actually get to vote on it?
No, sorry, I meant it's up to them.
I thought it was another Jason Todd.
I meant up to them to guess whether or not he died or not, and he never would.
Jason Todd. I wasn't even there at the time with the Jason Todd thing. For people who don't know, Jason Todd was one of Batman's Robins, and it was left to the readers to vote whether or not he dies in a collapsed building, and the readers voted that he dies. That says a lot about comic book readers. So I thought you were saying that the people who watched the telly show got to vote whether or not this Dr. Chilton died or not.
Well, I think if it came to Chucky, I imagine everyone would be voting for Lexi to die. She ain't making it to season 2.
Do you know what? I don't know anymore. After this week's episode, I don't like her. She's still a cunt. But I really enjoyed her interactions with Jake. I enjoyed how it wasn't easy, it wasn't simple, it wasn't resolved, but they do now have an alliance and an understanding. And I'm going to enjoy her getting her head round why. Why did Jake want her to be murdered? She's got to realise at some point, I was so awful that he wanted me dead. This is another human being that I pushed so far that they wanted me dead. And that's going to fuck with someone's head.
What is great about this is that I totally believe they are going to keep exploring this. But when you get that first moment, that first interaction, Lexi doesn't initially figure that this was intentional. And she's just like, Jake, your doll is evil. What happened? That was a great little moment of drama, that where it's like, oh, is Jake going to have to admit to this, or is Lexi going to figure out what's going to happen? Like, who's going to twig first?
And what's fascinating is that she assumed the best of Jake, the person that she bullies.
Yeah, she didn't even think it was that malicious. It took her a while for her to clock.
So that's the thing. She thought Jake was a decent human being who wouldn't have done that to her. And yet, he is the guy that she'd been bullying for months and months on end. Little niggle in the back of her head, am I the bad guy? But then that's gone now, because Jake was arguably worse than she was, because she wasn't murderous.
I think that, what I mentioned before, I think that conversation is going to continue, because I don't feel that we got the exact end of that, because
no,
as we saw in the scene where they investigate her burnt out house, what Lexi is so mad about is that she really thinks, we realize that her perspective on this is that Jake is just insane. Like, Jake was willing to get Oliver killed. Jake was willing to get, potentially Devon and Caroline killed. And Jake has to, like, you know, in a very, like, angry and emotional way, he specifies, like, no, I didn't want any of that. I just wanted you specifically dead.
And I think what's fascinating is that in this episode, the expectation was a redemption angle for Lexi. She does not get that. She hasn't acknowledged what she's done. She hasn't acknowledged what her actions caused, and she still hasn't apologized properly. But what we do get is a redemption arc for Jake. He is no longer murderous. He realizes, what the fuck have I done? And he saves her when he could have dropped her off that balcony and she would have died. He wanted her dead. He had the opportunity to see her dead and he chose not to. So we got a redemption arc, just not the one we were expecting.
I think that definitely went a long way in bringing Jake back to a face. Because I don't think they really, after that moment, they didn't really argue as much. And as I say, I think, you know, this argument is, you know, far from done, but it seemed Lexi did acknowledge that there was a moment of a redemption from Jake.
I think the other thing that's important to acknowledge about the kind of development of their relationship is that there's a real empathy moment, a real understanding between the two of them when she's so casual in response to him admitting that he has anxiety problems, because it's obvious that by her response, she does too. And they're both so casual about it that it's almost like a non-conversation. What drugs you want? Oh, those. What for? And then they move on. But they understand each other tenfold more after 3 sentences of a conversation.
The kids coming together of this episode, that's I really can't wait to see more of that. And that you know, it happened very suddenly of them all getting on the same page. I mean, as we see, Devon later gets onto the same page as them. So now we've got the 3 of them working together, and that's going to be a really fun dynamic to explore.
Yeah, I think so. And does this mean that Lexi's the fag hag? I'm sorry, I couldn't resist. It's a cheap joke. I'm allowed to make it. I'm gay.
But I mean, God, I really hope Don Mancini doesn't stray. I mean, obviously there's going to be more conflict, but I mean, yeah, I mean, even in that sense, there's probably going to be some fun from that, in the fact that they're almost unwittingly, I think they're going to bond during this, and I think there's going to be some moments of levity and some moments of humor, despite the fact that they should hate each other.
We've seen the opposite to this in the Chucky franchise already. We've got the couple and the gay best friend in Bride of Chucky.
True,
and
yeah.
I feel like this is kind of almost a nod to that we can do it the other way around. It's 2021, damn it. And I'm all for it.
Oh my God, he didn't really play a huge part in it, but we also have Junior. Junior hasn't joined this little group yet, has he?
No. And
I wonder when that will happen, or if that will happen.
I think it will either be that happens or Junior's next, actually. The bonding could be cemented if Lexi and Jake both lose Junior. One's related and the other one's a partner. Junior could be what cements Lexi and Jake together as a friendship.
Yeah, I mean, despite all the teen drama, they both do care for. There's been scenes that have demonstrated that they both do care for Junior.
Exactly that.
And we do get some dialogue in this scene. Says that Junior is in critical condition, like he can't breathe with like a ventilator and stuff. So yeah. I don't think he's going to be getting out of the hospital next episode to join the Scooby Gang.
While we're talking about a Junior in hospital, I do want to talk about the conversation he has with his dad. You've got to remember that Junior's dad is about my age, mid-40s. Maybe a little bit older, but not by more than a maximum of 10 years. So he's my generation, he's Gen X. Boomer parents, which is what I experienced, were very, very similar to what we saw in this scene, where they just don't understand the power that they have, even when they're trying to be kind. It's okay if you don't want to play football, Mark. You can like other things. Even when you're trying to be kind, even when you're trying to look after your kid, I could hear the disappointment in my dad's voice, that his firstborn son wasn't a footballer and wanted to read books. And that scene, it was like a kick in the dick for me, because my generation are doing the same fucking thing.
That has been one fascinating angle of this, is that not only are we focusing on the kids here, but we're also getting, if not equal, but a good number of scenes with all the parents and stuff, the adult characters, and fleshing them out as real people.
The adults really shine in this episode. Actually, I really liked the argument between the three sets of parents. That was excellent.
That's what I was about to go into. Yeah, that was a real great source of conflict between all the parents, and they all got a great moment, as performers and as characters to shine. I was calling him last week Mr. Wheeler. Logan has an interesting change or interesting shift in character here. That his anger issues are really coming out now, aren't they? Because as you just said wonderfully, we get that really sort of underlying but also seething disappointment in that his idea of perfection with his son and his family is sort of gone out the window with this tragedy.
What's important to acknowledge is that the dad wants to be supportive, wants to be kind, wants the boy to say, I don't want to do cross country anymore, if that is what he really does want with his life. He couldn't hide that would hurt him. The power he has over his son, even though Junior didn't want to do cross country anymore, he still said that he did and that he loves it. And the immediate reaction of relief confirms to Junior that he'd done the right thing to look after his dad. God, I've had relationships like that for my entire life. The current relationship I'm in, we are brutally honest with each other, and it hurts in a completely different way. But fucking hell, it's refreshing.
Yeah, it's interesting, the honesty that we're starting to see with the parents. Chucky revealing himself to the kids gives them a great impetus to shed a lot of that drama and to be honest with each other. And we haven't quite got that with the parents yet. We probably won't have any, Chucky talking to them or whatever. So we've got
unless he's going to kill them.
Yeah, unless they die. So we've still got a lot of that maintaining, not the charade, but maintaining how they want people to see him. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's slipping though. One interesting thing that you talked about about Logan, sighing of relief that he, the way he wants his son to be. Also with the anger, the moment of anger when, we get two big moments of anger when he's slamming the vending machine, and then shortly after when he punches Lexi's dad. He does seem to be getting closer to his brother now.
Yeah, I think you're right.
From in episode 1 when we see them together, it seems very much like, they couldn't be more different. And now we're slowly revealing that, they are brothers and they probably share a lot more alike than we thought they did. It's just that Logan did a much better job at not hiding it, but he was more fortunate and he was more lucky in that he was in this upper class life he's in now. But now that's all slipping away. He's becoming more like his brother.
Yeah.
And it reminds me of the way he talked that, like, it's okay if, you don't like sports or whatever. And then when, Junior says that he does, and that you get that sigh of relief. That very slightly mirrors how his brother wanted Jake to be. You get that conversation with people, with fathers and children, like, it's okay if you're gay, I wouldn't be disappointed in you. And then the parent, the kid like says, don't worry, I'm not, don't worry, I'm fine. And then you get that sigh of relief, like, oh, okay, like, phew.
Yeah, that's exactly what that scene was, wasn't it, with the cross-country conversation?
Yeah, so it worries me that, like, how bad is Logan gonna get?
Yeah.
But I mean, at least in this instance, when he punched Lexi's dad, he was kind of in the right.
Well, I'm border on the pacifist, so I don't feel like it's okay. But yes, I know what you mean. It if it's going to be justified,
It's
gonna be.
justifiable is maybe the right word. It's the same as Lexi and Jake confronting each other. They're both not. There's no right and wrong. All these parents in this sequence have a reason to be angry and sad and very emotional.
Yeah.
And then,
I
of
think
course, I don't know if that's going to be a unifying factor or a dividing factor, but then we get Devon's mom coming in and revealing that Oliver was in fact murdered.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, God knows how that's going to shape things.
See, I've been looking up Devon's mum because I don't want to call her Devon's mum. And even on IMDb, she's down as Detective Evans. So should we call her Detective Evans?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we get some of Detective Evans in this. She seems to be more on the case of Jake. It's sort of just continuation of her story, isn't it, really? I mean, she does directly confront Jake at the end, and Jake almost does the terribly dumb thing of admitting it was Chucky.
That wouldn't have been wise.
No.
And it wouldn't have worked. But I do think that Detective Evans does suspect it.
She is very... she doesn't know what to think, because she doesn't want to think that Chucky is alive, but, like, she has that story from the trick-or-treater, a woman, a kid in overalls dressed up as Chucky did it.
Yeah.
So she knows something is up. And so that would be very interesting to see if... Because I imagine she seems like the character who would, just as she discovers that Chucky is real, then Chucky pops up and kills her. And But I would be surprised. I would be surprised if she lives long enough to be on the good side, on the proactive side of doing something.
Yeah, I think unfortunately you are right.
In the ways of conflict, it definitely would make Devon seem a bit more proactive if his mother
right,
died.
so I was going to do this at the end, but I think I'm going to do it now as you've just basically predicted that Detective Evans is going to die. We are at the halfway point of the series, and I've got 5 teen characters, 5 adult characters, and 5 legacy characters. I want you, and I'm going to do it too, I want you to predict one that will definitely survive and one that will definitely die by the end of the 8-episode run, and see how we get. Because, we've done all right with predictions so far, so I thought it'd be quite fun. So the kids are Lexi, Jake, Junior, Devon, and Caroline. Who's your prediction for definitely survive? Would you like mine?
Yes, I would like to hear what you have to say, yeah. Because I know
Caroline.
Okay. To survive, okay.
I think Caroline will survive because she will be Chucky's new protege after he failed with Jake. Yes,
that could go the way, yeah. God, it really is hard to tell who would survive and die, because I want to say Jake because he's the protagonist, but I mean, that would be... It's interesting. We're right at a point now where they're all getting proactive to beat Chucky. And it's like, if you get rid of one of them, if you get rid of Jake, then can Lexi and Devon, can they be the new protagonists? Like, can these characters stand up without their relationships to the other characters?
Fascinating, isn't it?
And I'm wondering if you get rid of Jake, can the other characters lead the show?
I'm not 100% sure, but I think Jake versus Chucky could end up with Jake being dead. But I've gone with Junior as the character that I think's definitely going to die.
With everything we've seen, if he does survive, he's got a lot of catch up. And then I don't know what he can provide, I guess, from his athletic skills.
So you haven't answered either question. Who's living, who's dying, Dev?
I want to say... Okay, I'll say, yeah, I agree with you. Junior is going to die. Just to put it out there, I kind of also want to see Lexi to be guaranteed survivor.
Wow, Lexi survives. That is a controversial one.
I want to see how much, because as you said, like, I don't know how she can exist without her relationships to, like, Jake and that. And, like, without her parents. But I want to see it. I want to see, like, her parents get killed and, like, maybe Jake get killed. And I want to see her just become, like, a completely different person. Like, not even a sense of redeeming herself, but out of necessity having to become someone else.
True. Okay, let's move on to the adults. We've got Logan, Bree, Michelle, Nathan, and Detective Evans. You can go first on this one.
Well, I mean, I think all of these could be on the chopping block.
So maybe the survivor is the more difficult one. Right, pick someone who's definitely gonna die.
Definitely, Bree is very likely because we've got her drama of who she's cheating on. And I think once that comes to light,
True.
I don't know what like her quote unquote purpose as a character is once that secret comes to light, unless it's really important. But
I mean, my
then,
definitely gone die is Detective Evans. I'm sorry,
true,
she's
yeah.
in trouble. She is in trouble. The closer she gets to working out Chucky, the more vulnerable she is. And her mate died already.
I don't see any of these characters really existing. If their kids die, then I can't imagine them still being in the show, like sticking around.
All
So I
right, so
think they
who's
would
your
have to die first.
survivor?
As a survivor, oh god. As I say, I think they're all pretty expendable. Maybe Logan? Maybe?
Logan was also my choice. I think Logan will survive as long as either Jake or Junior survive. I think, like you, the dad is almost a needed kind of trope with the young protagonists. So I think you're right that Bree is more likely to die than him.
He's
And
either going to do that thing where as soon as he learns that Chucky is real, then he's going to die, or he has that anger in him that he could maybe turn positive towards Chucky.
And you've got to remember that he's actually a similar age to Andy. So maybe they could end up becoming a badass vigilante pairing. You don't know.
He got cast twice. Let's not forget he was in the first episode twice. So
That's true. He has already died, technically. All right, let's move on to the legacy characters. Andy, Kyle, Tiffany, Nika, and Chucky. Do you want me to go first?
Yeah.
I think Andy is going to die. I think that he will turn up, do something heroic, and they'll pass the torch on to another main protagonist, be that Nika or be that Jake or potentially both. But I think it's Andy's time. Who do you think's going to die?
Andy definitely would be the most dramatic. Kyle could die, but it's been so long since we've seen her. I don't know if Mancini's going to bring her back just to kill her off when it's been so long. Whereas we've seen Andy in the last couple films. Like,
true.
He's been built up as a big return.
All right. Who do you think's going to survive?
Well, I mean, if Chucky's on the list, he's pretty fucking hard to kill.
True. And he has died many, many, many times. I didn't think about that, actually. Shit. If I'd thought about this better, I would have also made it only 4 candidates, so we could have done Twitter polls for the listeners as well. So I'll do Twitter polls, and we'll maybe take Chucky off that one. So ignoring Chucky, Kyle, Tiffany, or Nika, who's going to survive?
God, could they kill Tiffany off at this point?
I think that would be insanely good if they did. Imagine the Chucky rage if they did. He was on the list almost because I would like to see the exploration of what Chucky does when she dies.
I mean, God, I really would like to keep Jennifer Tilly around, but I mean, maybe
I do like
they could have their cake and eat it if she did die, but then she came back. She was like, oh no, she was also in a doll, because then we get classic Tiffany in a doll bag, but then we do get that drama. We do get some drama and some stakes of the fact that she doesn't have that body anymore.
I think what I'm going to do is when I put this on Twitter, one from each category that we both left alone is what I'll take off for the vote. So let's see. Neither of us said either that Devon would survive or die, so he can go. And neither of us went anywhere near Nathan, so he can go. And Chucky can go. But you still haven't answered the question. Who do you think's going to live?
Well, as I say, I don't want Tiffany to go, but like, I think I've mentioned this before. We've never seen an exorcism, like a reverse possession in this series yet. We do not know if we can save Nika yet, but I wonder if Mancini has considered that, and if if there maybe is a way to save Nika.
They wouldn't bring back Kyle if they didn't want to do something with her. So I think Andy's going to die and Kyle's going to continue his legacy.
Yeah, that would feel right. Yeah.
And then she's going to hook up with Tyler, and it's going to be a weird thing with this actor that hasn't acted forever. I don't think that's actually going to happen. I really want to see Tyler in series 2. I really want to see Glenn or Glenda in series 2 as well. But I don't think we'll see either of those now.
God, when you're bringing in new characters like Glenn, or old characters like Glenn and Glenda, like, I mean, what if they possessed one of the existing characters?
Ooh.
So then we get like insane double casting where a fucking basically nobody character like Nathan just becomes an important character.
Well, on kids stuff, they actually predicted that the teacher is Glenn.
Okay, because I was going to say she seems like a character who is too naively good to live.
See, I don't think that that's the case, but when they pitched it as an idea, I was like, that would be cool if it was true. I don't think I agree, but I like the idea that Glenn now identifies as a woman, is in the body of this teacher, and is trying really hard to be nice. I love the idea. I just don't think that that's it.
I could imagine that with someone, maybe Glenn or Glenda coming back. If they come back, I don't know if they would be on the side of Chucky.
No.
If they had to choose, they would be on the side of Jake and Andy.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? Anyway, that was a massive, massive tangent. I just thought it'd be a fun thing to do. I was going to do it at the end, but it felt like the right point. Should we talk about how the scene with Devon and his phone basically steals from Sherlock, but is really fucking good?
It is fun. It's fun seeing the little text on screen, and
I really liked that. And I still think it's stylized, even if it's massively stolen from Sherlock.
I don't know if you watched the Next Up teasers, like that go out online and stuff.
No, I haven't.
It does set up that, we get the pictures of Tiffany and Nika, and they are coming back next episode.
Yeah, I assumed they would be. It's about bloody time.
But I did love those pictures are clearly just promo pictures from those movies. Who was taking that picture of Tiffany? That is just like a shot from the movie.
Yep. I mean, it could have been a shot from that film that they were making in Seed of Chucky, though.
Oh.
What was it, like Psychopathic Rage of Chucky or something? It had like the most ridiculous name.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, where is that movie? The movie was made in like 2005. Shouldn't people at least recognize Chucky from that?
Yeah.
Or did they cancel that movie when they killed the special effects guy?
That's true. We don't actually know if that film got made, do we?
Well, hang on, wait. The actress Jennifer Tilly did disappear, so they might not have been able to finish that movie.
Oh, Chucky is just such a ridiculously wonderful franchise. I love it. I love it so much. Did you spot the first character to say fuck that wasn't Chucky?
Oh, shoot, who was it?
It was Jake.
Ah.
I was like, they've only got a certain amount of fucks, and they gifted one to Jake. And I really noticed it because obviously it was the first swear word of any character other than Chucky.
He does have a mouth on him. And that's a fucked up mouth. Because Chucky is all fucked up now, which as soon as I saw that, I was like, God damn it, that's going to be... fucking Trick or Treat Studios is going to be selling that in about 2 months.
Well, we established that Chucky says cunt as well last episode.
He's a rambunctious little boy. I mean, as we get to the insane kill he does at the end of the episode. Well, there's 2 kills. Yeah. We need to talk about Teen Chucky in a bit, but let's talk about current Chucky and the gruesome kill he does. Which
it's wonderful. I want to talk about Two-Face Chucky. I don't know whether that's what we should be calling him, but Two-Face from Batman. So I'm going to be calling him Two-Face Chucky from now on. That was so cool. I love it when they do stuff like that, like the burnt doll in the first one, like when they had the sewn up face in Bride. I love it when they fuck with the doll and it just makes it that little bit more nasty. And I feel like this is similar levels of cool and iconic as the 2 examples that I just gave you as well.
And they really had some fun with it and acknowledging that when... He's talking to the cop, and he's like, I couldn't stand your fucking face. And then he looks in the mirror and sees himself. Yeah. He's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just projecting.
But the thing is, what I thought the reasoning for having Two-Faced Chucky when it first happened was there's going to be some more Chuckies like in Cult of Chucky. And they do play with that in the hospital scene where you don't see the face of the Chucky that's running around. Was it Two-Faced Chucky? Or was it another Chucky that's just arrived and we've got two fucking Chuckies in the hospital? You can't answer that because I don't think it's cut and dried. I think it probably was Two-Faced Chucky. But I like that they played with you with the idea, is there another Chucky? Because they deliberately hid his face, but they'd already established that this Chucky had a distinctive face. And it's much cooler than a Chucky with a bad hairdo.
I mean, maybe I can answer that because I did see the next up.
Okay.
Sadly, Caroline does get gifted another Chucky doll.
Oh, okay. So there are two Chuckies in the next episode.
And immediately
right.
Lexi and Jake are just like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Brilliant.
Which, that is just a side point. I think if Chucky is doing such a good job after this, a lot of the suspicion is on Jake right now. And that is sort of something that Chucky would really want at this point, to like lay all the blame on them. So having Tiffany and Nika come up next episode, as much as that is fun for like us to see, both of those people are heavily connected with a long series of murders. I think if anybody sees them, the suspicion is immediately shifted from Jake onto them now.
Potentially, yeah. But again, it's all about you can't tell this part of the story, otherwise you'll end up like Andy's mum. And they've kind of done that really well. And I think that's why we're not seeing this world's Jennifer Tilly in prison, even though she's a fucking murderess with someone else in her body.
Yeah, I mean, even like the story aside of like Chucky doing it, I mean, let's not forget Tiffany looks exactly like Jennifer Tilly, so
that's what I mean.
So
oh yes, you're right, dead Tiffany, the dead body that Tiffany originally started in.
Tiffany is also dead. I forgot. I mean, obviously Tiffany is also dead, but I mean, I guess in the real like. To Detective Evans, if she Googled that or whatever, Tiffany is also dead. So that is also confusing why someone who looks exactly like Tiffany is in this town.
Yeah, so the body of Tiffany looked, when she was alive, very much like Jennifer Tilly. But Jennifer Tilly, the actor, now has Tiffany in her as well. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, my original point was that even
Fuck this franchise.
My point was, like, Detective Evans doesn't need to believe Chucky did it. But if she sees Tiffany and she knows who Tiffany is, then she would then believe, oh, Tiffany is the one causing these murders, not Jake.
But it's not Tiffany, it's Jennifer Tilly with Tiffany inside her, who just happens to look like Jennifer Tilly. Wait, what?
But then she's also going around with Nika, and Nika is an escaped mental patient who was convicted of several murders related to the Chucky doll. But that doesn't look good for Jennifer Tilly.
Oh, this is going to be so much fun. It's going to be so much fun.
I want this exact conversation played out, like, in a police room.
One thing I am concerned about is these 4 episodes have been really self-contained. They set up a world that doesn't have those references in. They haven't really referenced anything other than gender fluid. I wonder whether bringing in the legacy characters could cause confusion for the people that have started with Chucky as their entry point for the franchise.
Well, as we've just played out, some of the in-world logic is incredibly bizarre. But I think they've done a good enough job at setting up. Like, Nika, I think, haven't they already said Chucky has possessed people?
Yes.
So they've set up the premise of Nika, and they, as we saw in this episode, they've shown pictures of Nika and Tiffany. And, I mean, if they're going to just mention that Chucky has a child, I mean, he had a child with someone, so I guess they've set up Tiffany to a degree. I don't think
I just wonder whether they've done enough for people who haven't seen any of the films at all. That's a minor concern, that's all.
I imagine episode 5 is going to have episode 5 will have a scene that explains it pretty succinctly.
Honestly, I'm pretty confident, yes, because they've done so fucking well so far that they are clearly on it. This is a labour of love project. This is intelligently written with a nod to its past, but not ruled by it. That I think that they are going to get it right.
And as we've seen with some of these flashbacks, which I want to talk about, they're not shy. They're not trying to confuse audiences with storytelling. I mean, the flashbacks are delightfully illuminating. So I wouldn't be surprised if they do a very on-the-nose catch-up in episode 5, just to catch people up. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if they have the rights, just do a clip montage of the earlier movies.
The huge revelation of who the protege kid actually was definitely something for the long-term fans.
Yes, that was such a fun callback.
I hadn't heard anything about Eddie Caputo being in this. And then suddenly, Eddie Caputo is in this, and you're like, of course. Why wouldn't Chucky's first protege be the partner in crime that he murdered so brutally when he betrayed him?
That was such a fun callback. And that is such an interesting angle that those two knew each other so long ago. When in the show, in the first movie, he was a very minor character. He was someone that maybe Chucky had known for, I don't know, a short time, maybe. But it's very fun to see their what was a very minor relationship be explored a bit.
But it does, again, harp back to how brutal and how utterly callous Chucky can be. This is the man who murdered the woman who loved him, remember?
I mean, you could be talking about his mum or Tiffany. He has murdered several women.
Exactly right. And I was meaning Tiffany, but you're exactly right. He murdered his mum. We shouldn't be surprised that Eddie Caputo was a long-term close friend of his. I'm a convert. I wasn't particularly enamoured with the idea of Charles Lee Ray's backstory, but I've really enjoyed everything so far. I think that stuff like the 70s footage, the grainy stuff is so cool. And I think seeing fucking Chucky in flares was also a pop moment. But also that moment with the laugh and the doll behind the eyes of the adolescent Chucky, maybe 17, 18, I would guess. That was absolutely chilling.
It's done such a really good job. Like the first movie, they say that he was a murderer, the Lakeshore Strangler, but they don't really show too much of his human past. And so you could say that as he became Chucky, he progressively became more insane with his power. But these flashbacks do a really good job at building that he was, doll or not, utterly a monster. And it really plays with that kind of sort of how Lexi keeps surviving. It plays on that misery conflict, or in the sense that these people just keep getting away with it.
Very true. Talking about people who get away with it, police officers that steal. This one didn't get away with it.
They played that up just to make him such an asshole. Just so this was out of everything we've said about how characters are, how we've got conflict. There's no good or bad. It's all grey. And then I love that Mancini just made this character just a fucking dipshit, just so we could really enjoy the kill.
He wasn't particularly evil. He wasn't particularly anything. He was just a bit of a bellend. He wasn't. It was definitely his time. But what I will say is, we haven't really lost a major character since his dad. I don't feel like Detective steals shit from a vending machine or introduced 5 minutes later with knives in her face Maid. Either of those characters were really anything other than a build-up. I think we're going to start seeing a bloodbath of major characters from next episode.
We've seen Tiffany kill multiple people on screen. We've seen Nika kill multiple people on screen. There's going to be other Chuckies present. All of these characters love killing people. So that is now we've gone from one murderer to 4. Or maybe even more. And they're all going to be trying to kill people. So that it could... The murders are going to exponentially double here.
What I find fascinating about the whole series as we've gone, stuff like people not noticing things in the hospital, people dancing away at the silent disco while the house was burning, and all these things that have happened like that, it really is a comment on society about not only that people aren't very observant because they're not, but also that people really don't see the real horror that's going on in this world, and that because everyone is so preoccupied with their own shit that they don't see horror that's going on right next to them again and again and again. These scenes where people are oblivious, I really feel like it's a massive comment on society by Don Mancini.
You've made me realize that we've talked about it again and again, how Chucky gets away with it. And I do wonder, for all this build up, all this character evolution and exploration of themes and all this story, like if at the end of season 1, no matter who we keep or who we lose, on the broad sense, this town, Hackensack, to an outside perspective, is Chucky going to get away with it again?
What I'm saying is that Chucky is a metaphor for Boris Johnson and Donald Trump. That's actually what I'm getting at, is that again and again and again, Chucky does horrific things that people just don't notice because they're getting on with their own lives. And if that isn't a fucking metaphor for corrupt politicians and what they are doing to our world, I don't know what is.
You know, it's like George Bush in his paintings and stuff now. How delightfully twee that is. Is this going to be the point in the Chucky history where, as you say, society is like, society at large is going to start noticing this, or is this going to get brushed under the carpet as just like a series of unexplained murders?
I think the latter, to continue the metaphor. Wasn't that bleak, Dev?
Well, I guess that ties in with our predictions, and that this show is proving to be fucking impossible to predict.
The only thing that I would like to finish with or mention as the last thing we talk about is the Chucky middle finger at the end was fucking superb. I just laughed out loud. I swear I did a little dance. I was watching it on my own. The cat probably judged me, but the Chucky middle finger at the end was just everything. And I was like, I fucking love this show.
Oh, and the fucking dubstep music as well. It's just so delightfully insane.
Subversive. It's just wonderful. Wonderful.
I mean, what am I saying about, like, is he going to get away with it at the end of the show? He's getting away with it right here. He's giving the middle. There's a room full of people, and he's just giving the middle finger. Of course, he's going to fucking get away with it.
It's just wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And that's 2 iconic Chucky images in a row in 2 episodes. The laughing in the flames, followed by the burnt face, 2-faced Chucky flipping the birds. Just, I want this at the end of every episode now, like an iconic Chucky image of him being a complete and utter fucking badass.
I think that definitely is the cap to end it on then. And this has been Chucky Vision. You can follow us on Twitter, as we said. Get involved, get engaged on @ChuckyVision over on Twitter. If you want to see more of me, then I'm over on Twitter @AbsoluteTravisT, and I've got a little link tree with all the different things that I'm doing. I'm going to be on Twitch and hopefully doing more podcasts. I won't announce them yet, but I'm working on some podcasts in the near future. More horror-themed podcasts like this one, so keep your eyes open. Mark, what about you?
Well, I'm going to do what I did last week. I'm going to mention 2 podcasts that aren't currently active, but I would love you to listen in anyway, because I'm really proud of them. The first one is Ink Stories, which is a podcast about the stories behind people's tattoos, micro episodes of about 10 or 15 minutes. That is done in series, and I'm hoping to do a second series next year, but there are 12 episodes of that with some really interesting people telling the stories about their tattoos. That's @InkStoriesPod on Twitter and Instagram, because obviously it's worth posting pictures of the tattoos, which is why I got an Instagram for that. I also do a podcast called Life's Milestones, which is based around my job as a humanist celebrant, where I talk to people about their birth and or naming ceremonies, their relationships and or wedding, and then their funerals and or their death. And the idea is that I link that to my job and talk about subjects that are quite personal and quite taboo in some cases. And yeah, you can follow that at Life's Milestones on Twitter. And if you're looking for me, it's at Mark Adams HC on Twitter. All of my podcasts are available wherever you are listening to Chucky Vision, so just search for them by name.
Fantastic. And for now, that is another episode of Chucky Vision. If you enjoyed listening, and for next week, wanna play?
You sound so camp when you do that. What I'm saying is I'm the butch one.
Chucky Vision is a podcast brought to you by the We Made This network. Follow us on Twitter at Chucky Vision. Follow the network on Twitter at WMT_network. Our website is wemadethisnetwork.com. The logo was designed by Carl Bryan, and the theme tune composed by Dark Fantasy Studios. Wanna play?
Elsewhere on We Made This.
The TARDIS crew.
But the 11th hour is just something about the way he comes in immediately and just steals everything away from Tennant. Fish fingers and custard and boom. And then you get that ending scene where he's walking through the hologram images, and he deserves that at this point.
Absolutely. I think the 11th Doctor is a masterclass in introducing the new Doctor. I don't think any story has ever really topped that for introductions.
The Giddy Carousel of Pop.
I went to the San Remo Pop Festival on a plane. That's a smash hits memory for you. On a plane with Frankie Goes to Hollywood. We had Frankie, all the Spandau Ballet, all of Duran Duran, Sade, Chaka Khan, Bronski Beat, and Talk Talk, all on the same aircraft. I remember thinking, if this old barge goes down, then A, what's the insurance, and B, the Cocteau twins will probably have a hit next week because the whole thing will be cleared out.
Right in the childhood.
It's a documentary.
Oh, get in the bin.
So this was...
Oh, okay, right, we talked about prejudice, but documentaries, maybe that is the...
So it was a Halloween thing where they had a lot of very famous TV presenters from the time presenting from the most haunted house in Britain. It was massively controversial at the time, and it was either you thought it was amazing and it was critically
like
well
Most
received.
Haunted.
Yeah. Ish.
Check out all of these shows and more on the We Made This podcast network.